Deputy Speaker, and I have to say, having listened to the member opposite speak, I don't know what planet she's on, because this country can be incredibly proud of what it has achieved. It has achieved the most incredible international outcomes, whether it is one of the lowest case rates in the world, meaning the least amount of cases of COVID, one of the lowest fatality rates in the world, including in aged care, one of the lowest hits to our GDP, and one of the lowest unemployment rates as a result of COVID. Now, if we were going to say what are the big issues that are important with regards to the last 6 months, I think most Australians, if not all Australians, would say dealing with the health consequences of COVID, followed by the economic consequences of COVID. So if we look at this MPI, which is about the failure of the government to deliver on its announcements in areas of critical importance, what is more critical? What is more important than saving lives and livelihood? Now, if we're going to look at the outcomes of those, we are absolutely doing a fantastic job as a country. And that is because the federal government has the trust of the public. They understand that we care about, firstly, the health implications of this COVID crisis and making the tough decisions to keep us all healthy, but then the economic implications. Now, when this pandemic first started, it was like there was a crisis of unknown proportions coming at us at speed. So you can imagine there were huge amounts of decisions that had to be made. So for a federal government, to make such a huge amounts of critical decisions in such a short period of time, it's absolutely extraordinary that they have been done so swiftly, so effectively, and to the benefit of so many Australians. The government's decisive actions has resulted in what is regarded as one of the most remarkable economic programs of support in the world, and that is JobKeeper. I haven't heard a single person actually think that JobKeeper isn't a wonderful economic support program. And we now know that there are over 900,000 businesses, in fact almost 1 million businesses around Australia that are benefiting from JobKeeper, and that includes 3.5 million employees. 3.5 million people in Australia are receiving JobKeeper to help them to have a livelihood, to help them to get through this incredible crisis. And for those who don't have JobKeeper, there is JobSeeker. And the JobSeeker has been almost doubled to about $11.50 per fortnight with the introduction of the coronavirus supplement over the last 6 months, and that's now been extended to December 2020 at a rate of $250 per fortnight, in addition to the underlying supplement. So I've had so many locals call me and say our business was going to collapse without the support of JobKeeper. Cafes, restaurants, retail, flight services, you name it. They have been so relieved that they've had this temporary, targeted support to get them through the tough times. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, unless we have dealt with the health consequences, then we are not able to deal with the economic consequences, and we can see that happening in Victoria, because unfortunately the Victorian Labor government hasn't delivered on the health promises that we need in order to ensure that we can have good economic outcomes. And that is really concerning, because we know at the National Cabinet level we've had a very good Australian approach to how to deal with the COVID response. But unfortunately Victoria has let the side down. Unfortunately, the quarantining hotel fiasco, followed by a poor effort with regards to the COVID track and tracing and not using the COVID Safe app, has resulted in an outbreak of community proportions that has put huge amounts of pressure onto our systems, particularly aged care systems, because, as everybody knows, this COVID unfortunately unfairly targets those who are older Australians. But I do think it is worth mentioning that despite this, the fatality rate in Australia in the aged care sector is amongst the lowest in the world, if not the lowest in the world, with around a 0.1% fatality rate. Now, that compares to the Canadian aged care fatality rate in the aged care sector, which is 15 times higher, or the Irish and Italy's aged care sectors, which are 30 times higher, or the UK sector, which is 53 times higher. What is quite incredible is that the fatality rate is so low in Australia. Now, every death, absolutely every death, is a tragedy. We are really very, very sad and deeply grieved by anyone who has died from COVID during this terrible, terrible pandemic. But in fact, it is the actual response that's
The honourable
helped
member's
today.
time has
Thank you, Mr
expired.
Deputy Speaker.